Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-hosts Duff, Jess, and Jonathan. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
We're here. We're all here again. Wow.
We are here.
Consistency.
Yeah,
Look at this.
yeah.
I love this. Ooh.
Yeah. On today's show, we are very excited to discuss our behind-the-scenes exclusive experience at Lost Spirits Distillery at Area 15 in Las Vegas. And we also have several of your voicemails that we're going to react to about the HHN 32 spec map. But before we get to that, as always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365 and at TikTok at HHN365 Pod. We have a Discord. The link is in the description, and our merch shop is hhn365.com. Our voicemail is 407-906-4134. Before we get all to that, we do have a lot of news to get over to, though. Jonathan, take it away. You are kind of the news guy at this point. Where do we stand?
Yeah, okay. So I divide the news up into 3 segments because there isn't like any the rumors up in 3 segments. So we have news and rumors. So we got the first segment here that is John Murdy tweets, like we usually have on every episode, because he just keeps tweeting about things. The second segment is legacy stuff, and the third segment is HNN stuff. So let's just start with the first segment, which is John Murdy tweets. The first tweet we got was a piece of information about Hollywood's HHN event, and that scenic on Hollywood's first house will start in 4 weeks. So last week we talked about the tent that was put up in the Curious George area of the park, and now scenic is starting in 4 weeks. Construction is ramping up for Hollywood. We're gonna start seeing things hopefully like in the near future. And I know lots of us like to, look at the tents and stuff in Hollywood because they're pretty easy to see from a lot of areas and start guessing, what houses are actually, are they actually? So we're going to get into that stuff really soon. And the next part is that John Murdy gave a hint for what he called house number 1 of this year's Hollywood event. And in order for me to not read all the news and rumors and you get tired of my voice, one of you guys want to take this part?
No, you take this one. I'll take the next one. How about that?
Okay, well, that's perfect. So the hint for house number 1 was released on President's Day. So we said, all right, I'm going to give you a President's Day themed hint. And the hint is the 13th president of the United States, Millard Fillmore. And it's a very vague hint, but he gave a little bit more of a description of hopefully maybe elements of the president that have to do with the hint itself. And he said that he was a member of the Whig Party and later the Know Nothing Party. And in parentheses, yes, that was really the name of a political party. Then he says he named his son Millard, and he died in, I think it was 1874. One second.
Who knows?
Yes, who knows? But he died in a specific year.
He definitely died that year. And John Murdy cared about it.
He did. So this is, an interesting clue. I have no idea what this means at all. Do any of you guys?
There are a lot of wigs in opera, right?
Somebody did this on Twitter, and I was ready to excuse myself from the internet for a little bit.
Trying to say puppet theater, but John Murdy already said no Orlando originals.
No, I'm saying Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, I get what Mike's saying.
Yeah, like the wig. Yeah,
yeah.
This is a very but didn't John Murdy say that this hint is going to be very out there? Didn't he preface it?
He said, he basically said it'll mean nothing.
It'll mean nothing. Yeah.
All of his tweets, right?
Yeah. I feel like John Murdy's wilding a little bit. Does he always do this? Is he always this?
Yes.
Or is he just messing with us?
He is
like this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's extra this year. He's he's just trying to fuck with us this year.
He seems a little annoyed this year.
Yeah, he does. He's a little bit sassy this year. He's always sassy.
He's why the fuck do you guys already know so much in fucking January?
I think so. He seems like personally annoyed about these like leaks, and he's like trying to like just like cause chaos, and
So I
that
have more.
he's gonna do his own hints, and they're gonna be like out there and crazy and make himself like laugh and humor himself and just like confuse people. That's what I'm getting, that type of vibe from him.
So I have more information. It got cut off on the outline, but I'm going to read the rest of it because it actually has really important information. Is that he did die in 1874, but he also said that's the same year this particular house is set.
In what year?
1874.
18.
Isn't that right around?
Wait, that's right when Phantom's the 1880s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's a
And then-
Phantom? What if it's a Phantom prequel? Oh my God. Are we thinking too on the nose here? So let's take this
Probably.
now.
And the
So
wig party, the wig.
No, well, no, I'm saying like Phantom takes place in the 1880s. Maybe this is like how the Phantom ended up in the Opera House, because it's very much he already lives there in the stories we know.
Yes.
What's his backstory? Maybe Hollywood's doing a backstory version, and that's how Drac and him, they're not fighting. Maybe Drax is dead.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Daddy issues.
Exactly.
I think he's just fucking with us.
Mike,
I think
you
so.
ready for this?
What?
Aston Villa was founded in 1874.
Yeah. Oh, it's a soccer theme.
Premier League house.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, we're not getting that before we get it. WWE.
We already had one. It was
No. Hollywood.
Got it. You already got it. Get out of here.
Hollywood had it, and I was like 5. Leave me alone.
Yeah, and it was the worst house ever created.
Even the Undertaker was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. No.
All right, moving on.
No more Millard Fillmore.
Millard is almost Mallard. It's a duck house.
Quack. Mighty Ducks confirmed.
Pato. Legacy. You know, our favorite little insider gives us fun little clues. There's been 3 more, by the way, since we've last chatted. That includes a Hollywood exclusive original, an original that hasn't been given a location, and an Orlando original. So go to our server, check it out. People discuss this shit.
Yeah.
But Legacy is making them really, really difficult. He's just having fun with this at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are unsolved still, but the original 3 were solved immediately almost, or whatever it was.
Yeah, he basically was like, you know what, I'm tired of this shit. Stop solving it.
He made his own like code. Everyone's freaking out about it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand none of it.
However, he has said that all 3 of the clues that we have solved all might be out.
Actually,
at this point.
It's all of the 3 clues that you just mentioned. So the Hollywood exclusive original, the original has been location, and the Orlando original. All of those could be out completely, even though no one has solved them yet.
Okay.
Don't bother solving them. There you go.
So he's not saying that like the Megan or the Insidious
clues. Yeah.
And Insidious clues and the Phantom Drac are out.
It's
He's
the
just saying
originals that are
the
out.
newer ones are
Correct.
out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with this shit.
It's
Same.
usually
That's a lot.
in February, it's not going this hardcore, but here we are.
No.
He's also added that Devil Dogs was never entirely accurate, but it may be out.
Oh no! Does that mean Slaughter Cinema 2 is now like can? Because entirely accurate for Devil Dogs makes it sound like Slaughter Cinema 2.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Or something.
Something.
Also,
I don't think they had enough yet.
You don't think what?
I don't think they had enough ideas yet, like that were, put on the back burner from 28 to now, because that's how we got Slaughter Cinema 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Just
I don't think they had enough
ideas.
solid.
Just canned
Yeah.
ideas, yeah.
Not enough solid
Bunch
ones.
of silly stuff.
The anchor that we saw on Spec Map version 1 was never correct.
Thank God.
And I think there's a lot of speculation. Was it not correct, or was it in a very different way leading to something else?
Okay.
Not so literal.
My favorite tweet that I have seen, I'm just going to point it out this way, is ship
Mm-hmm.
can mean many things.
It
Mm?
can.
Oh, like a phantom,
Oh my
phantom,
God.
phantom Dracula Game Room.
Mike. Oh, like a
Ship.
ship. Oh, Mike.
As mentioned in Raw.
I was thinking
From Pokemon.
they're not fighting, they're not teaming up, they're in a ship.
Yeah,
Is
there you go.
is Dracula Christine in this version? Is that what I'm hearing? Ooh,
Oh, it's a love
spicy.
triangle.
Ooh, I'm excited. No, ship can mean a lot of things. Like
It could be a lot
Patrick
of.
said. Can mean a lot of things.
I am happy that at least in the general term of like, just looking at the anchor itself and everyone thinking, okay, is it nautical themed? Is it Dead Man's Pier 2? Is it Titanic? Is it this and that? I'm kind of happy, at least right now, according to rumors, that it's not going in that direction. Because while like I do think a lot of those ideas could be cool, I feel like we just had Dead Man's Pier and we could just wait a little bit longer for something else nautical. I love nautical stuff. I think I just need like at least a year break from that to really
I
like
do
be able to enjoy it like
think
fully again.
nautical can be broad enough where it could work, but how far away are you going to stray? That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? 'Cause
Yeah.
if you were talking Depths of Fear, that's a completely different thing.
Mhm.
If we're talking SS Titanic, that's a lot closer to Dead Man's Pier suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
It just depends. And also,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's probably not the case anyway, so it's not going to be a concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Jonathan, you understand the context of the last one more. So
I do. So someone was asked because basically, like as he said, all of these originals could have dropped out, including most likely Devil Dogs was the answer to one of his clues or something related to Devil Dogs. And they said, "Oh well, at least someone responded like, oh, at least the IPs this year are like more consistent, right? Like less likely to be dropped out." And Legacy replied, "Not particularly." So there's Legacy is referred to a lot of times, saying that the rumors are all over the place right now. No one knows exactly what's going on. Things are going, crazy. So there's a chance that it's not just these three originals that dropped out. There's a chance that maybe there's been weird negotiations with IPs, or IPs have been dropping out, or IPs are being switched, or more IPs are being added. There is a lot of, at least right now in the rumor sphere of things, a lot of uncertainty of what this year is going to look like right now, which, as much as I do love the concept of like knowing everything, right away and be like, all right, now I'm going to like be able to consume all this media and get excited and this and that. I'm kind of happy we're in another year where things are sort of changing constantly, so that you're not really going to know exactly what to expect if you're following the rumors until we get closer to the event, compared to something like 30 where we kind of knew everything right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we want to move on to the last bit of news?
Yeah. The last bit of news ties directly to the Horror Night Nightmares server, which is where also Legacy said all those comments. But Mark from Horror Night Nightmares has been giving clues of one of the a house that is rumored for HHN 32. All of these clues, because I'm going to read off a couple of them, all of these clues pertain to one house. And I'm just going to, there is like 15 clues on here. So I'm just going to read a couple of them to maybe give you guys sort of an idea of, the theme of the clues, and maybe you guys can come up with, your own answers. So the first one is, some things are may not be what they seem. And the next one is, I have to go ship something far away. Be back later.
Ship.
Ship, exactly.
Ship.
Mm.
Ship.
Yep.
Speaking of ships, let me just scroll past and move to other clues that regarding ships. One of them is sinking, a GIF of a sinking battleship. And another one was, my ship has sailed for tonight. Another day tomorrow. So we got a lot of ship related clues. So that's our first like piece of information here, right? Ships. The next one is space. So he posted a lot of music videos, one of them being Space Oddity from David Bowie. Another one being Intergalactic, which was from a Beastie Boys Rock and Roll Nightmare poster. The next one being Rocket Man from Elton John. So we got a lot of space related stuff, songs and music. Another one that isn't really related to space, but it was rock, was a song called For Those About to Rock Live from AC/DC. So we have a interesting theme of space, rock, all that good stuff. And there are two more that I'm going to pull out that are weirdly specific. The first one was that Mark just tweeted a GIF of fireworks, basic fireworks, and the comment was one of my favorite days other than Halloween, of course, which
Independence Day.
mhm.
Yeah, I was like, didn't Duff say that?
Okay.
Didn't we
Which
talk
is
about
a
that?
film about a specific thing that
about
happens.
an alien invasion. Okay.
Mhm.
Wait, can I build off of that with how the AC/DC one goes in with that?
Oh yes.
For those about to rock, we salute you.
Oh.
Those are the words to the song.
Okay.
What was in Invasion? Army. Salute.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just saying.
And
All right.
the
So
last
that just builds on to the firework.
Okay. The alien invasion theme. Okay.
and the last clue actually, which wasn't specifically referred to as a clue, but he said these things twice, and this doesn't seem like I'm so sorry, Mark, if you're listening. Doesn't seem like a normal human thing to say. So it seemed weirdly specific and like a clue, like a wink, wink, type of thing. But basically, he commented and saying, "Oh, I'm at a friend's house, but the first one I'm just paraphrasing, but I got to walk on a street to get there, right? But then the second one, and this one is in quotes, was made it back home. The street was short. He mentioned street twice, which." And no, I don't think any person I've ever met goes, the street was short. It seems very intentional. It seems very specific. And I mean, Jess, you were just mentioning right now how a lot of these clues sort of like feel like invasion. I think you could see how this little element could also relate to
The
that.
street was short. Also, Invasion part of Lights, Camera, Action. That was also a short part of the street. I guess you could even say that. The Invasion section, it was just a little stage. So yeah, I don't know. To me, like that's the only space like alien thing we had.
But also, wasn't Invasion in San Francisco, which is like one of the shortest streets, like
It was
in terms of
tiny.
size?
And I don't think it went very far, like how even like did it? That was a long time ago. I don't remember, but I feel like it didn't use like yeah, I don't think it used all of that space that we're used to them using now, at least. So I don't know. It all to me looks like that, and that also goes with the potential of everything being a sequel or that being like the original side of things. That's a sequel.
So is that
we're just saying
this is all us? Yeah, we have no idea. This is just us. The clues all lead to alien, and that's the only alien thing I know.
Yeah, like you could argue that a lot of it's sort of like, oh, maybe it's just like a new space original, that has to do with space. But the minute you get the street comment in there, it makes it like a lot more specific in my mind.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just
so
something to ponder about a ship that is maybe not that kind of ship and is a different kind of ship that we've seen before, where there was a literal ship.
Yeah. Say ship one more time.
Ship.
Yeah, there was a ship crash. Yeah.
And
right
I mean, another thing we could be talking about, like, is we just mentioned the anchor, like as he said, the anchor never being correct, and we got like 3 comments in here, but one of them literally being a GIF of a sinking battleship that I'm sure like people associated like with the anchor. You got a sinking battleship, and the first comment here that I mentioned, some things may not be what they seem. Do you think that we've been talking about ship and like what could ship actually mean? Like, do you think this is them saying what people think is a basic, like not a basic, but like a general dead man's pier type, house environment that we would sort of expect immediately from looking at an anchor? Maybe it's not that, and maybe instead of a like a boat, it's a spaceship.
Hey, Future Duff and Jonathan here. There have been a few things since we recorded this episode that we wanted to add to this news and rumors section. A few things we even discussed. I guess only one thing we discussed directly in this episode later on. But let's get into it. Jonathan, what do we have?
Absolutely. So the first thing is the lesser of the three pieces of news we have today, but it's still very important, and that is that for Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights, the Parisian Courtyard is finally starting to get built. There's walls around it, and you can see a big tent right there, which means that we already have the Curious George tent up and getting ready to start construction there, but having the Parisian Courtyard getting started, it's going to make it all, like super easy for us to, so hopefully in the future start figuring out what that house is, because the Parisian Courtyard is right there. You can always see what the facade is because of its location. And it's just another indication that Hollywood's construction is just in full swing, and we are really moving into construction season now.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see like the visible signs of progress happening, especially this early in the year, where it's not all over the place and it's not as obvious. So when it starts popping up, it's really exciting. Just kind of gets you back into the groove and feeling really excited about the event as a whole.
Yeah, remember last year, like as La Llorona was being built, I think they only just built like a little bit, like the sheer outline of the facade, and everyone's like, all right, that's La Llorona, got it.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that that was unfortunate. That it happened so quickly and got ruined. But I'm happy they built it because that house is an absolute banger.
yeah, it was incredible, and I can only imagine what they can fit in that location this time, because I've only been going since HHN 2021, but every house in that location has been stellar.
Yeah, and I've only gone 3 years, and every house has been stellar. So, agreed.
So, should we move on to our next clue?
Let's do it.
Well, actually, I didn't mean to say clue, but it is a clue. So this requires a little bit of explanation for what we're going to be talking about later in the episode as well. And it's that Horror Night Nightmares on their Discord server started giving clues for HHN 32 regarding houses and other things. And the communities of the Discord servers, our server, HHN 365's Horror Fan, make sure to join that one. We talk about not only Legacy's clues, but these clues as well. And everyone in there is really good at solving this stuff. And Horror Night Nightmares Discord server came together to try to solve them. And we have an answer for two clues. We have answers for two clues. And the first one is one we discussed later in the episode, and we give you guys our process of figuring it out. So we don't really need to get into that right now. You guys can hear that later. But basically, the answer to the first clue was that we are going to be getting rumored an invasion house based on the HHN 27 Scare Zone, and of course their amazing appearance in Hellblock Horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, phenomenal appearance in Hellblock Horror. Yeah, I mean, it's something I'd be super excited to see, but I won't go any further because again, we do discuss it later in the episode, and it just happened to get confirmed that was the answer to the clue since we recorded. So yeah, here we are.
And we were right.
Hey, look at that. We did something. We did some work. We finally can take a little credit for solving clues.
We're very proud of ourselves.
But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen again. But hey, look, it wasn't a complete failure of clues for us. And that's all I care about.
Exactly. And now we have clue number 2, which we don't discuss later in the episode. So I'm just going to give you guys the basics of it right now. Basically, for this clue, we got a lot of different pictures and quotes. One picture being a picture of Jordan shoes called the Elementals. I think it was called the Elementals. We had a line saying, gotta go to the races. We had colors like orange and purple, and even a Stranger Things reference, and all of this came together in a really weird way, of solving it that people in the Discord servers and we were working hard to try to figure it out. And long story short, the answer to this was not a house, was not a zone, was not even a show. It was in fact a very interesting tidbit about 32, in that it will have not 10 houses, but 11 houses this year.
Oh, that is more than anything where we're at right now. That is fun to have as like a actual rumor. Just all the discussion that can come from that. I look forward to hearing the pros, the cons, the skepticism, and the over optimism from some, surely. But I think it'll make for a lot of fun discussion as we get further into spec season, whether it happens or not.
And I know we were discussing it before, either on mic or off mic, I don't particularly remember, and that the permits that we talked about last week had all the same locations as HHN 31, which, looking at it from like that perspective, it's like, well, why did they spend the money getting that extra soundstage when they didn't need it, since the Shrek feeder is supposedly available now because Minions will be open for a long time by the time HHN starts, and rumor is it has a location specifically for HHN built into it. So we were wondering, like, why would they just get the extra soundstage? Now it might make sense. Maybe Shrek, in fact, will be used this. I'm not calling it Minions. Maybe Shrek will, in fact, be used this year, and that will be our 11th location down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely factors that would lead you to believe it's a possibility, for sure. And if it's going to be any location, that seems like the one, outside of like erecting Men in Black 10 again. So
please no.
Yeah, I mean, I'd welcome it, and obviously I think staffing is going to be a big discussion about that, and especially considering how that went last year. But I'm sure next week there's going to be a lot more discussion on our end about it.
Absolutely.
I believe that was it for all the updated news and rumors, right?
Yeah, that's it. You guys can now listen to us talk about the rest of the news and rumors in the episode.
Yeah, enjoy that. A couple days old us had fun as well. So enjoy.
And I think that's all we have for news and rumors.
All right,
we got through it.
Yeah, so let's hop right into our main segment. So this main segment is going to need a little bit of explanation. It is different than something that we've kind of ever had on the show before. But Duff and I got a really exciting opportunity to go check out a brand new experience at one of HHN Las Vegas's neighbors that's going to be at Area 15. Mm-hmm. That's already, and I mentioned it on the show, of this place that's kind of already doing kind of themed experiences and things that if you are trying to have a little bit of like an idea of what that experience it might kind of could potentially, some of the dining experiences and like themed shows and stuff, it's already happening over at a certain place in Area 15. And Duff and I got a really exciting opportunity to go check it out and to talk to the owner of Lost Spirits Distillery at Area 15 in Las Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were... So we were discussing this with Bryan, who is the co-founder as well as also the inventor of different techniques they've used in distilling, but also the whole project as a whole. And Joanne, the other co-founder as well, set all this up for us. We were lucky enough to get private box seats, an experience where we got to, which you're going to hear shortly, an interview with Bryan, in the brand new experience they're opening in the already existing Lost Spirits Distillery.
Absolutely. Now, before we get too far into it, I think we kind of need to explain to people who don't know what Lost Spirits Distillery is, just kind of exactly what it is. Because I feel like when you hear the word distillery, you're going to think your typical distillery, right? Yeah. It is not. I mean, it
also is.
It technically is. Technically,
it's a distillery also,
but it is so much more. Which is why I really wanted to feature this on the show because there is so much here,
Mhm.
right? Duff, how would you explain Lost Spirits?
I'm gonna say 3 little phrases. 2 of them are just words. One is Cirque du Soleil, distillery, burlesque.
Yeah, and I would maybe add there's some darkness here. There's some
Yeah.
moodiness,
There's
especially now with this new experience.
I think spooky is a fine word for it. There's some spookiness to it.
And there's some elegance here too. It's definitely like an kind of it's a sensual, elegant experiment. I've heard other people call it kind of like Willy Wonka of booze. I would say it's more like the Stanley Kubrick. Like I don't know. There's There's something here. It's a very immersive experiment.
It is.
And you can really explore.
I mean, you have everything as simple as, and I say simple, but obviously it's a very intricate thing, but like aerialists to suddenly you're in a 20,000 leagues under the sea room where the walls and the props around you are moving to what they called the most naked woman alive. Like there's everything in between.
Yes, and we'll get to it in a second. They're going to have a really cool add-on experience coming soon as well, where you get to see the more spookier side.
Oh, it got super spooky. We saw things.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
my God.
and it's a historical spooky side too. It's really really cool. So what, Duff? How should we do this?
Let's just go on the interview now. Listen to the interview, and then we're going to give a full review of what we saw in the interview and the whole experience at Lost.
So before we get to the interview, so Duff and I were kind of brought into a room, and we just kind of let Bryan explain where we were. And he just kind of, we start off right with Bryan just kind of explaining where we're standing.
Yeah, and I think when you say just brought in, that's kind of how it worked. We showed up and the interview started.
Yeah, we started off and we were set in this room and we had no idea where we were. And we just kind of let Bryan take it and he explains where we're standing.
Yeah. So enjoy this
here we go.
Interview with Bryan.
All right, so welcome to Lost Spirits. You are in what at 7 o'clock will be the main aerial acrobatics stage. We actually built the table for the seance room that you're looking at to wheel in from storage every night at 9 o'clock. And then it locks together over the top of the stage. So the room actually completely transforms, all the lighting changes. You'll see it later tonight in a totally different context. So this is for a brand new thing that we're building. Super, super fun. Opens in late February or probably late March if I'm not, going to be dishonest with myself. So it's a seance room. And the idea is that, basically 2 of my magicians came to me and they went, we really want to do a small seance room in the space. I was like, okay, tell me more. Like, well, when we were in college, they used to host seances in their dorm room. And they became a thing and became really popular, and their friends would all come over for these. And they thought it'd be super cool. And they were based on the old Houdini seance, stuff outing the people who did this as frauds. And so they would sort of start it with everything you're going to see is fake, and then proceed to scare the shit out of people in the dark. And so as they were explaining it, I was just sitting there going okay, what does this look like in Lost Spirits world? And then from there, it became a question of well, let's start with the basics. What ghost are we going to try and conjure here? Because we certainly aren't doing Houdini, right? A, the magic castle's a thing, and B, right? And B, it's just such a trope in the context of seance world. And so I kind of settled on another figure that has a similar history with seances as Houdini does, except completely different, and not talked about in the same way, which is Thomas Edison. So we decided we'd conjure him. And this also gave me a really cool excuse to go shopping. Because one of the things about seances is that, in order for you to get a ghost to show up, or quote unquote get a ghost to show up, you have to have objects from their life that you can bring out to sort of bait them to the table, if you will, right? But yeah, so basically if you were in here as a guest, step 1 is you have to sort of start introducing the items from your subject's life, i.e. Thomas Edison's. So hence the opportunity to go shopping. So I don't know if you've ever seen any of this stuff before, but it's pretty cool. So this is a late 1890s phonograph.
Oh, wow.
So for anybody who's not familiar out there, Thomas Edison's claims to fame are first that he invented something that he called a phonograph, which is in essence the first recording of human voices or sound. And then later he went on to invent a whole slew of other stuff, ranging from most of the telephone, although Bell got credit for the last step on that one, what would ultimately become the tattoo pen, all of the different data transmission systems on electrical lines that created all of Western Union's innovations in the telegraph industry and sort of spurred in the modern data science realm. And then they also created electric alternating current, which Tesla created in his shop before it then got handed off to Westinghouse when Tesla either depending on whose argument you want to go with, stole it or gave it to the world because it was too valuable to hide.
Right.
And then eventually Edison went on to create some other really cool stuff, one of which was the optical sensor, which you've probably seen lots of times. Every time there's a laser going across a room or something measuring light density.
Right.
And that was actually something Edison had invented for detecting ghosts during seances. So he would use a lens to focus a beam of light really, really narrowly, shoot it across a dark room onto an optical sensor, and then that way you could pick up any ghost movement across the beam. So, among other things. What you're looking at is the thing that made him the most famous in the world before the light bulb, which was the advent of recording sound. So it's a really cool wooden box for people who are listening and can't see it. And it's got this really neat ornate top and these brass clasps on the side. And when you open them and you pull it up, the lid just comes off. And there's the phonograph in all of its glory. Set that there. Now these, by the way, are records. So this is basically, some long dead person's CD collection. And if you open them, I'm going to pick one that's lid comes off easier than that one. They're wax cylinders that were etched by a little tiny needle on a rubber sort of flange that would attach to the top of the needle, and then as it was recording audio, or hearing audio, I should say, that needle would bounce up and down and then etch the wax.
Wow.
And so this thing still works.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I know, right? It's like the coolest thing ever. And so you gotta crank it. You got 5 good cranks there. And then when you flip this switch, it'll engage the cylinder, it'll start spinning up. And then when you drop the needle on over here, it'll pick up those same vibrations from the wax, and then the audio actually comes out of the little tube on the top. And back here, there's a geared spring that rotates inside this little steel tube. And when it engages the pin, it has a little counterweight on the back that goes into that spring, and then the spring drags it along at the pace to play the audio back at the same pace as it was recorded. Okay, so let's spin it up. Let it get some speed. And you just... Isn't that cool?
That is incredible.
Yeah, it gets even cooler. So I'm going to pause it for a second. So when the way that these were used in this time period wasn't really for people to listen to music in their house the way that you would think of this. They were actually used in traveling circuses as sideshows. And so they would demonstrate for an audience inside a tent the way in which audio could be recorded, where actually what they would really do is sell people 10-cent tickets to listen to a talking machine. And of course, nobody would believe that a machine could talk.
Right.
So as soon as I get this lock off here,
He gave me 5,000 guesses to see what I'd see today. That was nice.
Right? We did not know what we were going to experience. But that is, I don't think any of us expected that. That was amazing.
This thing is so cool. Okay, So now, because they would have been playing this thing for like a tent in a circus, it needed a pretty big audio amplification in order to get it to work. So slip that horn on there, and so for everybody who can't see what I'm doing, I'm just lowering a horn down that's this giant, like 2.5 foot wide metal horn that almost looks cartoonish in relation to the scale.
Very much so.
Right.
And it'll spin it up again, and you can hear the difference. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
And you literally be standing 20 feet away, 30
Right.
feet away, and this thing's still blaring
Right.
in your ear.
And like it just has that natural quality of sound where it's like kind of fits what you're going for here too,
Yeah.
right? You know?
Oh, for sure.
Kind of got that creepy.
Well, I mean, I wasn't
essence
even
to it.
really trying to make it creepy. I just wanted to conjure Thomas Edison's ghost,
Yeah.
and so
Right.
inherently, these are just the things you needed in order to get your subject to show up, right?
Right.
Which, of course, by the way, we are probably going to fail miserably at.
You never know.
Yeah. You'd probably love Vegas.
So I'll pause that for a minute, and then so that's sort of object one, and so we bring it out to the table out here with all the floating Edison bulbs spinning around on their floating platforms, and you set it on the table and you play it with a 10-inch horn, which is the small traveling horn, and then eventually you bring it back over here and then put the big one on, and then of course later in the seance it's going to play a role, because this room is completely tricked out with every physics trick that my engineering team and I could dream up. And we actually have, so none of us are theme park engineers per se, but we all engineered the equipment together after I invented it that let us manipulate the booze aging process.
Right.
So I had this like rock star engineering team that was assembled for doing really, really difficult physics and science. And then the whole themed entertainment side of Lost Spirits came about because we were entertaining ourselves on the weekends. So it's still the same team, we're all here, all but one. And so post-pandemic. And so in here we sort of got to go nuts and have a blast figuring out how to play all kinds of weird games with you. We even figured out how to make actual haunted spaces. The only catch to the actual haunted space effect is that we're not sure that we can do it in a way that doesn't violate OSHA regulations. Because it involves, you have to hit resonance frequencies that match parts of people's bodies in order to like short circuit their sensory organs and get people to then see things that aren't there, and like it's pretty wild when you look at how classic haunted houses can actually be built.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's actually a physics explanation for most of it. It's just not necessarily a safe one.
Right.
Have you tested it out?
We've been playing around.
Yeah.
Well, if you need a test dummy, I'm here.
So once you get your phonograph in and you get that demo, then the next one from Edison's life is this little girl.
Oh my. Speaking of creepy.
Now she's not the creepy mom. So for everybody who can't see, this is an Edison doll. She's on a swing. We keep her in here just to keep her sort of like from getting, bored, and also, keeping her locked up so she doesn't murder us in the night. So she's about a 2-foot tall, toddler-sized ceramic doll with like a cloth body. And the reason that she's called a phonograph doll is because after the Edison's shop invented the phonograph, they had this conversation among the engineers of, what they were going to do to commercialize their brand new technology they created. And so they all immediately went to the most logical conclusion, which is that they should shrink the technology and stuff it in a doll. And so one of the inventions that Edison doesn't really get credit for is actually inventing the creepy doll.
Oh, wow.
That's a great invention.
Now, the first generation of these were so creepy that they actually took them off the market after a month. Those would actually say nursery rhymes. And so then they came up with this, which is a second generation model, and much, much, much less creepy, as you will see. So she still works. She's 130 years old or so.
Oh.
You're not going to make me hold that, are you?
I don't think I'm going to let you.
Well, good.
So
I'm also terrified of it for the listeners.
I also always feel a little wrong because all of the parts of her are under her skirt.
Oh, okay.
So it's always a little like, how do I do this tactfully? So there you can see is her crank, right? And so we're going to go ahead and give her a few turns. All right, that should be enough. And then you can see on the back of her, that's where her phonograph is. And that's her wax cylinder hiding there on the back. Now, these things have several really cool things about them. One, they're actual human hair.
Oh.
And so every one of the people who worked on the assembly line, after they assembled the doll, they would have the job of styling the hair and then choosing the eye color that would match with the hair most effectively. And then the other thing is that they had to record her voice because there was no ability to duplicate audio recordings yet. And so with each one of these that you made, you had to then put the audio onto it. And so these ones, because again, not the creepy model, they discontinued the creepy modle.
Okay.
These ones say prayers instead.
Oh, all right.
So, no,
definitely.
Much better. Apparently to the Victorian mind, anyway. And so here you go. Let's see if we can. The pin doesn't always engage on this one every time, so we might have to mess with it a few times.
I've never felt more peace.
Right?
Never.
If she goes on much longer, I'm going to turn to dust, Bryan.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So she's our second object from Edison's life.
Yeah. That is certainly an object.
I think the purr makes it more terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
So we actually bring her over to the table, and then we sit her down and her eyes close, and then we're ultimately going to build something so that we can sort of like wheel her out into the center of the table, in between the sort of like occult patterning and stuff.
It fits.
It fits.
So good, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, for the listeners who can't see, she is about 2.5 feet tall. She is basically like a life-size toddler. She's very big. She's a big
dog.
Right?
Right. You were literally fitting all of that like super delicate instrumentation. I mean, from an engineering point of view, this thing's incredible that they they just got done inventing this thing, and then they're immediately like, we should miniaturize it and fit it in a doll body. Like, I mean,
Right.
That's nutty.
They should have considered whether they should have done it. The outcome is something.
Right.
She definitely gets you into Jurassic Park,
Right.
Just because you couldn't.
Right.
Should have thought of it.
Exactly.
But totally perfect for us.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The fact that this was created 130 years ago was made for this experience right now.
Right. So I'm going to put her back in there really quick just in case she
Yeah,
comes
please
alive.
lock the door.
Also,
We always do.
I'll settle on my Teddy Ruxpin, please. Like that's the one that I will keep. Do you have a Teddy Ruxpin?
I did not. No, I did not.
Basically
who
the
it
same.
is,
Basically the same thing, but like apparently like 70 years later.
Also didn't say Hail Marys. We're supposed to be trying to sleep.
No, it taught you phonics.
Yeah, she's a kick. So when you take her out in the real seance, the monkeys give you one chime here as she comes out.
Ah.
And then, of course, later you'll hear her audio again, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so that's sort of like the real objects from Edison's life. And then we have a really, really fun one that's probably the coolest one, even though it's not actually something that we got from his life. We did our best to try to replicate what we could to kind of make one. And that's that, so Edison didn't leave any of his spirit phones behind, but he did actually build them and talk about them quite extensively. And so the idea was that it started with Tesla, who had actually, when he was inventing the radio, he had picked up radio frequencies that he couldn't explain. And so it's actually a really interesting story, because I got into it reading about the Edison stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's none of these left surviving. According to Edison, he was building a phone that you could use to talk to the dead. So you could dial your dead, grandparents or whatever and have a conversation. But then there's no evidence of these things left behind beyond the interviews he gave. Of course, the obvious question is why, right? Did either A, not work, or B, was he trying to destroy it lest it fall into someone else's hands? What was the kind of backstory? And so when we decided we needed to make one, we had to get into the question of like, well, where was he getting his inspiration? Because we had nothing to go on. And so from there, you end up getting to Tesla, who was trying to figure out how to wirelessly send electricity from one space to another without having to run electrical wiring.
Right.
That was his sort of idea. And he'd built this laboratory in Colorado. And the idea of the Colorado laboratory was to get in the middle of nowhere, far away from any interference. If you blew the place up, it wouldn't kill anybody. And he could set up a laboratory to go to work on this project. It's where you get the really famous photos of Tesla with the giant Tesla coils, shooting the massive lightning bolts across the room. And so on top of that laboratory, he had built this 100-foot antenna and had ultimately made the first radio. And he didn't know he was inventing the radio yet, but shortly thereafter he figured it out. And in the early trials, they picked up signals that, I forgot the exact phrase Tesla gave in the quote, but it was that he was looking for a logical explanation to explain why he was hearing what sounded like conversations between two people in a language he couldn't identify, which is really cool, right?
Right.
And so ultimately, Tesla would go on to conclude that they weren't actually ghosts like he initially thought, that what he actually had picked up were Martians. And he would spend the next 15 years or so trying to convince the world leaders to begin stockpiling armaments and building treaties to defend the planet against a Martian invasion, because what he heard on there, there's a clicking rhythmic pattern to the recordings. And by the way, these aren't recorded audio. But NASA in 1994 actually spent a great deal of money recreating Tesla's laboratory in the same area in Colorado and rerunning the same experiments in order to figure out what Tesla was actually listening to. Because there's always this thing in the back of your head, right? It's like, wait a minute. These two guys birthed the entire 20th century.
Right.
Like, these are two guys who collectively, between the two of them, you didn't even need Bell. Like that guy was a tag-along. like between these two, every part of our modern lives was sort of created in its infancy form anyway. Like these are kind of our smartest Americans. Well, Tesla wasn't exactly American. Anyway, whatever. But
close enough.
Sort of like our two smartest people on the planet at that time. And for one of them to go chasing after ghosts, from what he heard, and the other one to go chasing after aliens, you kind of have to take it seriously. And so naturally what NASA did was spend many, 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 many millions of taxpayer dollars to recreate Tesla's laboratory. Would have loved to have been a scientist on that one. And then go figure out what he was listening to. And they concluded that it was actually electromagnetic interference from Jupiter. But either way, whether it be Jupiter or whether it be Martians or whether it be ghosts, it produced this rhythmic clicking pattern, which you can hear from the NASA recreations, along with this sort of muffled, static-y voice type thing in the back that he was interpreting as ghosts. And the clicking pattern Tesla was sort of assuming was something like Morse code being used by a just a little bit more advanced civilization living on Mars, that he was presumably our new clear and present danger. Anyway, Edison figured, nonsense, those are ghosts, there's no way. And so he's going to build a phone that lets you call the ghosts instead of, going for all that aliens nonsense. And so that's what got us into creating the Spirit phone. And then once we had that, now we can truly have a seance, because you don't have to be a medium. You just have to, dial a ghost.
Yeah, easy, simple.
Yeah.
Totally simple.
And from there, I'm not giving anything else away.
You have given us plenty. This has been amazing.
I feel like we're just like every other distillery. Some of them just lack some cool stuff.
Right. I like that.
Fair.
It's like my favorite line from LA back when we built the original crazy over-the-top distillery.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I loved always sort of like, getting the customers to go out and ask all the other distilleries, where's their boat ride?
They should all have one, to be fair.
We actually used it, the original one that kind of set the whole entertainment side of the business off was that we made a river out of our cooling water. So we didn't have enough electricity in the original Lost Spirits Distillery in LA. Well, second original, I guess you could say it.
Right.
To run the industrial chilling mechanism. And so we were like, well, we're going to need a heat sink in order to cool the stills off. And so like, well, you either use an industrial chiller or a large body of water. And so we decided to go with a large body of water. And of course, once you had a large body of water in the warehouse, well, you need a boat, right? Because how are you going to get from one end to the other? And then from there, you just start building on the rest of it.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about the boat. You would take the boat into the distiller.
It was so much fun. We had such a ball. So I used to work for a contractor for amusement park stuff out of college. In our 20s, Joanne and I moved to Spain and opened an absinthe distillery and ended up making a really pretty elite product that was, supplying all these Michelin restaurants and stuff all over the world. And we sort of stayed in the distilled spirits business until we were in our early 30s. And then we were kind of going, well, we're building a new distillery. We've invented this technology. The technology's all over the press. You can't put that cat back in the bag,
right?
And, pretend you're doing it traditionally. So you might as well embrace it and own it. And I'm like, well, how much fun would it be if you merge the amusement parky stuff with the distillery stuff? And so thus, a distillery with boat rides and the whiskey tasting island and all the rest of it was born.
That's amazing.
I love the concept in general.
Yeah.
I'd love to visit breweries for me, but also distilleries is another huge thing. So adding like that themed entertainment aspect is something that we both enjoy a lot. It's I don't see how it wouldn't be a massive draw to a lot of people.
Wait till you see what it's like tonight.
Oh yeah,
we are very excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we haven't even seen it. We've been in the room now, and I'm like, and I get alcohol myself. Great. I love it.
Well, so there's a football field-sized place to explore. Basically the short version of kind of what is Lost Spirits is we have a full working distillery here, and that distillery exists in this sort of village that we built as like a giant stage set, and then that's inhabited by a traveling circus, as well as all the people who work at the distillery. So it's sort of like you can think of it as our distillery's factory town. And then we just let the public come in and they can, do what people do in a distillery factory town, which is drink, primarily. And so it's a lot of fun. You get to wander around and see, there's some really, really neat elements to it. We have several gold medalist athletes out there as the performers. Wow. And there's quite a few best in the worlds on the cast. And you'll end up, quite literally 3 feet away from them at times, which is something you can't get anywhere else.
That's insane.
Awesome.
It's really
amazing
fun.
amount of talent. Talk about the engineers you have on your team earlier as well. There's just like some of the best in the world.
It's an extraordinary team. We really have put together one heck of a group.
And remind our listeners when we can start looking out for this new experience. When does this roll out?
Theoretically, end of February, probably more like end of March. Something like that. It'll be on our website. So the 7 to 9 show is the standard ticket options.
Right.
And then we'll be adding a new one on that's, the seance room cocktail experience.
Awesome. Perfect.
And then we'd be remiss if we didn't tie in one factor here. Of course, one of the things that brought us out here to kind of expand our coverage is that Universal bringing a year-round haunt.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you've heard about now.
I mean, how cool is that?
Right next door to you.
Right.
We're stoked. Do you have any experience with Halloween Horror Nights, haunts, anything like that in your past?
Oh, sure. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I lived in LA for how many years?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
right.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, we're super excited to have Universal next door, and especially doing the haunt year round. How fun is that?
Yeah. That's a great 1-2 punch. Someone can go over there and then come do your seance here.
Oh,
So that's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Absolutely.
Which I'm sure we will be.
We will. You will see us again.
Awesome.
We will be here.
We can't wait to see you guys again.
Yeah. Brian, thank you so much for having us up.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I don't know what I just listened to. I was there, but what? But I'm so excited. What do you guys think of what you just heard?
I'm mad I didn't go to Vegas with you guys. That sounds like it's legitimately the scariest thing you've ever done.
Just seeing the doll, like that doll is terrifying. Yeah, no, I'm glad he didn't let me hold it. I absolutely, it was terrifying.
No, thank you.
But this is going to be such a really cool experience. What if they actually get the ghost of Thomas Edison to come?
After what I saw, it might happen. It might happen.
Right?
It's in that doll, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and as soon as that doll started saying like that prayer, I wanted it to GTFO.
Yeah,
Religious trauma.
Not only was it talking, it was prayers.
It was, yeah.
was throwing Hail Marys. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
And it was very
So this is an add-on you would do before
after.
the rest, or like after? Okay.
Yes. So from what my understanding is that you're going to go do the normal show, which Duff and I got to experience, and we're going to elaborate on what that is in a second. Because in our day, we got to do this first, and then we got to do the normal experience after. But what I believe is a normal guest will get to do the normal experience first, and then this will be an add-on experience on certain nights after.
Is it private, or could it be like a larger group?
I believe
it's going to be a
like
larger
12 to 16 the table about.
Yes.
It seemed like.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and there's a couple of different things when it comes to Lost Spirits.
Yeah,
where
there's a full, like, what is that, a 10-course meal?
A 10-course meal. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So I urge you to, if you were excited by any of this, definitely check out their website. They have all of their experiences.
And just for the regular experience, there's many different ticket packages you can choose as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all of the experiences that seem really great. Duff and I got to experience like a VIP package, but there are tons of different options that you can do. But yeah, Duff, do we want to, now that we have done the interview and we got to let Bryan kind of tell in his own words about what you experienced at that, or we want to just hop in about what the rest of the night will look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we got to experience that, and then we came back later to experience kind of the normal show.
Yeah.
And
we say show lightly because it's not a show; it's a bunch of shows and a whole immersive. Location.
It's a 3-hour long experience. Yeah. So if you're familiar with Vegas shows are usually very short. They're like 60 minutes at the most, 90 minutes long. This is like a 3-hour long immersive walk around sample. You get 4 samples
of their
rums that they produce there on site while you're walking around and experiencing just different small acts happening on different stages throughout this giant, like I think he said something about it's about the size of a football field. Like hangar or like distillery that is all themed around a different from what I understand, it kind of themed around different things that have tie into the different rums that he produces.
Yes. Yeah.
So we arrived, and then we were greeted by our own personal
with our private box.
Box. We got a personal,
thank you for providing that
concierge who kind of explained us how the night was going to go, who was super sweet and super amazing. And then we were brought into kind of the main room, and in our private box seats that were themed around a hot air balloon. Yep. Duff and I had a very romantic hot air balloon ride.
Yes.
If you could paint a picture of what we experienced.
Wow.
Also very unique. You get a bottle, but it's you usually get like a champagne bottle. This is a distillery, so it's not a champagne. It's a sparkling rum that's supposed to kind of be like a champagne, but it is a rum at the end of the day, and it was just wild to drink on its own.
It was absolutely delicious. If I could describe this bottle,
I'm so jealous.
Champagne.
And jealous. It was not a champagne. It was a sparkling rum. It was so delicious. And while we were drinking it, we were sitting on this main stage, and they had like this kind of like magician and / like carnival barker who kind of brought you through kind of what you were going to see on that main stage. And the shows on that main stage happened I think they happened like every 45 minutes or so.
30 minutes.
30 minutes to 45 minutes or so. And they had like 3 acts each. But if you had sat there all night just seeing those shows, which you absolutely could have, you would have missed so much other things going on as well, because
again, this is a massive hangar where there were different rooms.
There were 3 different stages,
acts going on, and
I think like 4 or 5
different 4 or 5,
So
and then the bars and the that were different experiences on their own. And
so we ran into Bryan later, and I wish I could have recorded it, but it was just so loud and we didn't get it on audio. but I'm going to paraphrase a lot of the stuff that he had told us, because we got to talk to him, I would say probably for a good solid 45 minutes more that we did not get in the interview. The interview was mostly focused
on the new experience.
So, but he gave us a lot of insight of this experience. And so one of the things that he said is that because Duff and I were running around and we're really trying to catch as much as we could, and it just, but I felt like we maybe saw personally us like maybe 25% of what we had to offer.
I'd say 30 at best.
Yeah. He said that he had been able to bring us around and like know exactly where we should have been. That even if we did that, he would maybe have been able to show us like 65% of what he had to offer. So there is so much going on here that you could potentially do this in multiple nights and see different.
You got to go back
because again, there's like 4 stages. And they have things going on at the same time. So everyone can move around, grab whatever drink is closest to it, and then just sit and watch that. So it's literally impossible to see it all.
Yes.
Impossible.
Yes. And I feel like Duff and I saw Airless. We saw contortionists.
Burlesque
we saw
shows.
like comedians, burlesque shows. I don't think we saw a magic show, but I'm positive they have magic shows. There are singers. There is, I believe, in the bar there is a pianist and jazz. There is, and it sounds like every time you go, there's going to be different artists, just like artists every night. So the ones that we saw, you like could see, but there's going to be so many different types of things that they can offer here. Especially now that they're potentially adding that spooky element too. There's so much to see. So Duff, I've seen. Should we just talk about some of like our highlights of what we like? Yeah. Okay, you go first.
I drank a lot of rum.
The
rum is delicious. The rum was delicious.
I think yes. If we didn't nerd out about the rum a little bit, I think we would be missing. So this is a distillery first and foremost. There's so much more, but you can tell that Bryan is so passionate. So I think we need to talk about Bryan's backstory a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
So Bryan has a very long history with distilling.
Yeah.
He has been doing so before it was in Vegas. It was in Los Angeles, and it was also definitely not as elaborate as they're doing now in Vegas, but it was definitely. Like a distillery tour that had much more immersive things to offer. And he is an inventor as well, which is, I think, why he so much loved about the Thomas Edison and how he has all these Thomas Edison artifacts, is that he literally invented a way to barrel age alcohol in a fraction of the amount of time. It normally
as like a lab setting.
In a lab setting, yes, is that he's able to lab create barrel aging, and that is like revolutionizing distilling as a whole. And so Bryan is first and foremost passionate about distilling, but you can also tell that he is passionate about a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
And you can hear in the interview that we ask him, do you have a horror passion? And you can tell that he does. He has. So yes, the rum and the is definitely a highlight of the night.
Yes, absolutely. But of course, we want to focus on that. However, there's just so much that goes into this experience, and there's obviously people who enjoy themed entertainment experiences, as we have a podcast about a themed entertainment experience.
I would say if you're listening to the show, you're going to care more about the themed element.
The rum is delicious.
And then not necessarily the booze.
It deserves attention. However, this whole experience, I mean, for me, this is kind of a cop-out to say it this way, but it's the variety of experience I'm getting all in one.
Right.
Like, I'm not seeing a show. I am seeing 20 shows all in one experience.
Yes. There's so much to offer here. So let's just talk about some of the individual rooms that we went into. I don't want to necessarily spoil too much, but there is one room that is absolutely jaw-dropping.
I don't. Should I spoil it?
I mean, it's going to be on our social media, so yeah.
Yeah. So there is like a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea / submarine room that is just when Duff walked in. I don't know how to describe Duff because I had seen it in YouTube videos and pictures, so I kind of knew what I was experiencing. Duff didn't do any research.
No.
Duff went into this blind,
Yes.
and when he saw this room, he was like, "Oh wow!" He was. What did you think? I'm not gonna speak for him.
It was just it was a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea inspired room, and everything was moving. It was alive.
Yes.
It set the tone for what it is and the aesthetic so perfectly. And like a lot of places, but mainly here, like it's a living space.
Yes.
It's not just a room.
Yeah, they were able to use special effects to make you feel like you were actually underwater, and with the creepiest fish that you will ever see.
Oh God!
That you will probably
Still in my nightmares.
see in our social media. The creepiest fish that you will ever experience under the sea.
Yeah, definitely.
What other? So I have another highlighted room. So another, I think, element of Lost Spirits that if you're not paying attention, that you will miss is the silliness and the humor of this place. Duff and I went into a bathroom, and when you flush it, when you flush the toilet, there is a robot voice that's very, very similar to something like out of that you might hear like out of Spaceballs or out of 2001: A Space Odyssey, who thanks you, says, I forget her name, but she says, I am the robot that controls the distilling process. She actually literally does automates the distilling process. That Bryan told us later that she literally was developed to automate the distilling process. She, when you flush the toilet, she thanks you for your contribution to the Lost Spirits Distillery.
Yeah, and that stuff like that plays a role. That kind of goofy, kitschy, just fun. Like you can tell it's a guy who's into.
He's a goofball.
He's animatronic goofiness and
we need to talk about the animatronics.
Okay, let's get into it.
They have the what I think his words were the fourth best animatronic bird show, where in one of the bars, and I wish I was able to record it, but it was just go to experience it. Go out and experience the fourth best.
You understand what it's a tiki room style, but obviously not taking itself so serious.
Very tongue in cheek.
Yes,
and it's very fun.
We'll save that for you when you get to see.
I don't want to spoil too much. But Duff, do you have anything else to add about your experience of the Lost Spirits Distillery?
Yeah, what a value! Like if you're
right?
Especially this thing is like you can get in general admission. What was it, $70-ish?
It varies
$80?
between the night if you want a weekend. The prices the prices are on the website, so definitely go check them out. But that varies anywhere I think between like $69 to $99 depending on the night.
And that guarantees you 4 full pours of that distillery's rum.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see some extremely talented entertainers of all different fields. Almost on the alcohol and just the space alone, you got your money's worth. And then add in all that talent you get to experience.
And I believe so. The show starts at 7, and then the entertainment goes from like for a very long time, and then you can stay later where it's open and you can just kind of explore.
And they do have a bar with cocktails that you can for separate purchase.
Absolutely, So Duff and I hung out there and just in the submarine and just chilled and talked. And we got a very they were so sweet to us, and I want to thank them again for having us out, and we'll definitely be back to check out the seance. And I think once we are making our pilgrimage
to Las Vegas. I mean, I was going to say annually, but it's the HHN thing's going to be there year round. So who knows how many times a year we're going to end up in
Too
Vegas.
often.
Too often, right?
I've never been, and this sounds like literally like a must do for my first time in Vegas.
100%.
Yeah, Jeff
I'm
and
very
Jonathan are
excited.
there next time.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
sincerely say this, not just because they invited us out, that
I'm going.
I was talking about before they invited us out. I feel like this fits in perfectly to our demographic. And if you were headed,
especially adding the seance,
adding the experience. If you were headed to the HHN thing in Las Vegas, definitely check out.
They're next door neighbors.
They will definitely check out Lost Spirits. Tonally, what they are doing, I think, fits perfectly for the most part. With if you love themed entertainment, if you love HHN, you are 100% going to love Lost Spirits, even if you don't drink. Even if you don't drink, you don't have to. You don't have to. The value is there still. 100%. The value is still if you give your drink samples to a friend.
Yep.
Anything else to add?
I can't wait to go back and see the seance.
Yeah, Bryan and Joanne, and thank you again for having us out. We'll definitely be back.
Yep, definitely. Well, that's Lost Spirits. I hope you guys kind of take us up on that advice and go check it out because it's worth it. I know 365 will be back soon. But let's move on. And a lot of you have left us voicemails reacting to the HHN 32 spec map. So why don't we dive into that?
Yeah. So we got 5 here. So let's get into it.
Hi, it's Miss Lauren the cat. Honestly, I really love the things that are shown on the spec map. My most excited ones are Japanese creatures, I think, as well as, even though I know a lot of people didn't like it, Lair of the Banshee. I'm kind of excited to see what they can do with this. I like that they're starting to branch out into horror from other cultures, and I'm hoping they do a really good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, same. I'm excited. Just the aspect of culture of across the event, and also, hi, Lauren. Thank you for calling.
And thank you for being so active on our Discord because you are always going there.
Yeah,
killing it with the mug pictures every day.
Yeah, someone who has experienced the scare zone. I'm excited for Lair of the Banshees. I mean, I think that they are definitely might allude to some of the stuff in the scare zone, but there is a clean slate here there where they could potentially there's so much to offer with the folklore. They could really, it's like La Llorona, like the Hollywood house was nothing like the Orlando one that we offered. No. There's just it can be something completely different, and I think there's potential here.
It can definitely. And I mean, Japanese creatures is that as far as originals go at the moment, that comes, it's top of my list.
100%.
Yeah,
I know nothing about what creatures or anything. It's still top of my list. I don't care.
No, you say Japanese folklore.
That's definitely, let's say the spec map was 100% accurate, which we're probably learning isn't necessarily the case. It never is for the first spec map. But if it was, I think Japanese creatures would be my number 1 original hyped house. Not number 1 overall house, but number 1 hype original house. Because I think it can have really good settings, really good characters. I want to see what these creatures look like and how they interact. And I do want something similar in the vein of Chupacabra because I really like that house. I love the attention to detail and the respect to the culture. And I love that in another setting. I think that'd be really cool.
Definitely.
I'm just glad you didn't call it Chupa, Jonathan. You've made progress. Thank
you. Good job.
I'm really proud of you. I needed to call you out for that. But yeah, I think I think that if we went off the spec map 100%, and like you said, it's never 100% right, but these are really exciting, ideas that they haven't tapped into in this way before. So,
and I do like the pattern Lauren pointed out. How a lot of the originals are stuff based on cultures. I mean, we mentioned Japanese creatures and the banshees, but I mean, there's also Krampus too on that
German.
list.
Yeah.
and like and not just IP Krampus, but like actual folklore Krampus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if they're researching potentially, so deeply for Phantom, it looks like there could even be like historical elements in that could be cultural with like Paris. So we don't know about that. Like there could be little elements in everything. It seems like.
Yeah, I definitely hope that Japanese creatures and something like Krampus, I hope they aren't scrapped off the next spec map. I hope they're still standing.
Me too.
Yeah, if either of those win, I'd be a little sad.
Yeah.
A lot sad, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Lair of the Banshees is the one that I feel like if that one is incorrect, I would. But Krampus and Japanese creatures, I would be very sad if either of those left. Yeah. And I'm excited for Lair of the Banshees too. To be fair,
I also didn't get to see the zone. I'm not super excited for it because of what has been said previously on this podcast. But I'm definitely willing to give it a shot, especially since I haven't physically seen what was there before. So I definitely I wouldn't put it on the bottom of my hype list or anything. I definitely all right. I'm definitely interested in what this can be and what route they can take this house. Instead of fully down on it, just for the fact that I didn't go through it.
I mean, we have seen them take a scare zone, and to be fair, that scare zone was good, right? But they've taken the scare zone and just go ham on it, right? And
I assume you're talking about Dead Man's Pier.
Yes, okay. Dead Man's Pier. Yes, we've seen them take a scare zone and just go absolutely ham on it and flush it out and turn it into something amazing and immaculate. So it's not, they can definitely do it.
Oh, yeah, right? Of course it's possible.
What's interesting is I didn't go through the original Dead Man's Wharf scare zone, but from videos of the zone I've seen and picture of the zone, the house, even though it had a lot of elements from that zone, definitely felt like a new thing. Especially changing the setting to winter. It felt like it was really able to differentiate itself from the zone instead of just being all right, it's the zone, but it's a bigger version of the zone.
Yeah. I think my only concern is it still took these aesthetics and similar aspects where I feel like Banshee, you have to fully flip it on its head kind of deal. But
yeah, and character design, because Dead Man's Pier, the character design was almost exact from
the zone. Whereas if you do that Lair of the Banshee,
frostier.
No, thank you.
I feel like Lair of the Banshee.
I will rip it apart.
Yeah,
it's
y'all don't want that episode.
Yeah.
You don't want that episode if it's like the zone. Y'all don't want to hear me.
Is that a nightingale? No.
Is that a nightingale? Okay. All right. Lauren, thank you. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yes. Next.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Hunter from your favorite brother, sister podcast, whatever, Catacombs. Hey, nice to talk to you guys. I've been thinking about it. You're talking about your HHN disappointments. I know I'm a couple weeks off, but I just got to revisit this topic. I keep thinking about it, and I got to say, you hit some major ones, but I really feel the Fallen is probably the most disappointed I have ever been in a house until a little thing called Spirits of the Coven that just came around. Just really high expectations and hopes for those, and I know sometimes expectations can come around and, that can really eat away at things. But I think what hurts the most about those houses is that all the pieces are there. You've got scare actors who are working their asses off. You've got some great sets. You have some really fun costumes. But it's just missing that thing. And it's not even just a pinch. It's missing the whole kitchen supply. The food is not seasoned. It's white people seasoning. That's what hurts the most about those two houses. And I just hope that, they revisit those concepts or kind of a spin on those concepts at some point, because, man, they both deserve better. All right. I'll talk to you guys next time, and see you around. Stay spooky.
Yeah, Hunter, you're right.
Yeah.
The Fallen was something I wasn't super hyped for it, I will say. But I had hopes, and they were shattered. But I think the issue is it kind of, if the Fallen was going to be successful, it had to be the straight up kind of angels demons fight thing that fully lost that. It got stripped of its identity, and the issue is, will they ever attempt that? Probably not, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like Hunter, I already know you and I have very similar taste, as do we all love the gothic sad thing. So like for me, the Fallen was very high on my hype list for 27 going into my first year. I also didn't know what to expect, so I fully thought they were gonna go like full religious. I didn't realize we were like 10 or 15 years past like really pushing things at that point. So for me, it was like really high on my list, and then I walked in and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back through Scarecrow. So that was my first night like ever at an HHN. So yeah, that one, I feel you on that. And that's why I don't think we're ever gonna get Ghost at the event, because I feel like it's gonna be very similar, where like religious imagery is not gonna work in 2020 whatever for Universal. They need to be more appealing to all, unfortunately.
Yeah, you have to remember Orlando's proximity to the Bible Belt is close, to say the least.
Holy Land is closed, but the Bible Belt is
Exactly.
still here.
A lot of the visitors that come to Orlando are from that region, and obviously those beliefs are instilled in many of them, and those things can be quite offensive. So I think that especially the higher ups are afraid of that. And also maybe a personal thing for some of them too. But regardless, it just seems unlikely here.
Yeah.
Then you still had all those people, what was it, a year ago saying Midnight Mass should come to the event. I think Midnight Mass would be a great choice.
No, it was a great tale about how good Catholicism is.
I still need
Yeah.
to see that. Midnight Mass, I have not seen it. I
Mike.
need to watch it.
Homework.
I haven't either.
I'm excited
Okay.
to see it. I've been wanting to.
Oh, it's great. Also, no,
It's
no Last of
amazing.
Us tonight. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I am.
We
so
do this
excited
every
for
week
Last
because
of
we
Us.
record on Sundays.
Every week we're like, oh yeah, Last of Us.
Great reminder.
Now I'm sad about The Fallen.
Yeah. Thanks, Hunter. Damn it.
Thanks. I'm just sad again. All right.
All right. Next
voicemail.
voicemail.
Yo, 365 crew. My name is Thomas. I've called before. I think I called when you're in this episode. But I'm halfway through your spec map episode, and it blows my mind. Like, you guys talking about like Krampus, which I'm really excited if that's true. But what about Psychoscapium for the holidays? That was like a holiday house. Like, to me, it was. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that house. That was a good house. But yeah, I just thought I'd pause my episode and you guys a voicemail and get what you guys think of like the other holiday houses. Like, there's no one I can think of besides the movie Krampus was Psychoscapium for the holidays, and Horror Blood and Guts did like a portion holiday. But yeah, I'm gonna continue listening. See you guys involved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, HHN does definitely have a history of doing like Christmas themed stuff.
Holidays, and I mean, if you even want to stretch out to other holidays, like Wicked Growth celebrated Halloween directly.
Halloween.
Hey,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah,
that.
you can even go to, California. We normally cover we cover there too, but they did Holidays in Hell.
Yeah, twice. The Scare Zone,
yeah.
that was kind of like a pseudo house. It's like that Scare Zone that's laid out like a maze.
Oh yeah.
And then they did that full-on house the following year.
I forget about Psychoscape Home for the holidays because I didn't get to do it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not one that it comes to my mind like after I think about it for a while.
I feel like it also still had a little bit of a comedy element to it. Where
it tried to do some
dark humor.
Yes,
definitely some dark humor.
Well, I feel like Christmas, like scary Christmas, is that it's dark humor. Look at like even Sir Henry's when we go there. Yeah,
I feel like this folklore Krampus though could potentially, ditch that. It still might be there, to be fair, but there is a slight chance
than dark humor.
Yeah, slight chance it could ditch it completely.
I don't think like it'll be humor in the way that Krampus is goofy looking. I think it'll be humor in the situations maybe we end up in the house. Like the scenarios and the setting could be funny. And also like, I'm gonna go back to Sir Henry's because that's the only Christmas haunt I can really compare out, like besides HHN and like Blood and Guts and stuff like that. Is I've been to the 2 past Christmas events, and like I'd be really scared and like going through like the newer trail, and then we turn and we ended up in a scene where Mrs. Claus and Santa were fighting and they were drunk and throwing snowballs at each other. And like the house was kind of dark, but the minute we got there, I was just cackling because that like kind of like broke the tension, and then they just scared the shit out of me again in the next scene. So like it could just be one scene that's funny.
Yeah.
And even that, I think, like could be a high point in the house. You need to kind of laugh sometimes.
It's true. That's why we need a show that's not
Bill
just
and
dancing.
Ted.
But anyways.
All right,
Anybody
next
else?
voicemail.
No? All right. Next
Yeah.
Hey guys, my name's Rob. I live here in Orlando. Been going to the event for several years now, and really love the show. I'd like to start off by saying I think the addition to Jess and Jonathan onto the show has been really great. You guys bring a really fresh
Yes, definitely.
approach to everything, and the show is very comprehensive. So keep up the good work there. Love listening to it every week. You know, you touched back a while ago on previous houses in terms of, you know, what you like, what you didn't like. Obviously, it's, you know, kind of what draws everybody to the show. But my very first year at HHN Orlando was 2017, and my first house was The Fallen. And I know there was some, you know, discussion on that house previous episodes, but that house to me holds a very special place because that's walking in and seeing that facade and just the first few moments in the house kind of made me fall in love with the event. And so that house holds a special place to me. And then I went to the Hive, and I've always been a vampire fan, so the Hive will also hold a special place in my heart because that's where I kind of solidified everything in my love for the event, and it's continued to grow since then. I grew up in northern Ohio, very close to Cedar Point, and the only thing we had there at Cedar Point, which is a great event called Hollow Weekends, and they do a good job. It's, you know, not nearly as to the scale of Universal, but a great event nonetheless. And having experience with those haunts and then coming down to Orlando to live and then doing the Orlando haunts was complete night and day. So if you've never been up there for Cedar Point for their stuff, you should check it out. It's worth checking out. But just touching on the spec map, I think I kind of fall into the consensus where Krampus is probably my most favorite. I think they could do a lot of really awesome things with that. I think they could still be giving us a really cool house if they mix kind of the old folklore with touches of the new with the movie. Not too much to overdo it, but I think it would draw in a connection between a lot of people. I know I'm really looking forward to that. And obviously, monsters, Dracula versus Phantom. Again, being a big monster nerd, specifically vampires and Dracula, I think this is going to be an awesome house, and I'm really looking forward to what they do with their interaction between the Phantom and Dracula. Hopefully it's not too much Andrew Lloyd Webber-ish, which I doubt that it would be. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's certain aspects kind of giving a nod to it, because pop culturally, I think that's what people think of, and Universal will want to try to make that connection. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a great house. So, yeah, that's all I really wanted to say.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off there. But thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for what you said about me and Jonathan. I
Yes,
appreciate
that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Very sweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right. You are right. They are great additions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. No, there's a reason why they're on the show.
Oh, thank you.
But who on their bingo card had 2 mentions of The Fall?
Yeah, and then contrast.
Not me.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to. Yeah, I this is what I love about HHN is that there is so many contrasting opinions. So, you know, Hunter thought it was a disappointment. The last caller thought it was, it was one of his, special moments of his first house he's done. So, I mean, I am, everyone has a different opinion. I, hold this 2019 Stranger Things
house to me as a special moment because I got to experience. I didn't get to experience the 2018 Stranger Things. I could experience one of my favorite shows at HHN. So everyone gets to experience these houses in a different way, and that's what I love about HHN and having this podcast, is because there's no right opinion about anything.
It's just art, and you interpret it how you do.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's the best part of the event. Everyone has a different opinion. But also, I believe your name was Rob. It was kind of a long voicemail, so I was trying to remember your name. But then you started talking about 2017, which was also my first year. You probably heard me talk about it, and you mentioned my first house in there, Hive. I get holding your first house kind of close to your heart, because as much as I have shit on Hive in this show, it was my first house, and it's kind of one of those things where, like, I'm going to talk shit about it, but the feeling I had walking out of that house was something I cannot replicate, because I didn't know what it was going to feel like going through something. Like, I had, paid attention to HHN my whole life, but hadn't gone. So what you hold with Fallen, I hold with Hive. So I get it. So I thank you for calling in and telling that story, because it touched me a little bit.
Yeah. I can only imagine how, like, I'm going to be honest, I'm not that familiar with The Fallen. I don't think I've watched many videos of
There's
it.
not many.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I haven't really, watched a lot of walkthroughs of it and whatnot. But I will say that I do remember that facade, or at least like a little bit of it, a vague memory in my head. And I remember it looked pretty good from like videos, and it looked like it had scale and
the
whatever.
lighting package was on the facade.
And it's just like, I can only imagine going to like a smaller haunt, and then walking into your first HHN house and seeing that scale and just going, wow, okay, I understand now. Because that's like a similar experience I had with Poltergeist. I only went to like one other haunt before at the South Florida Fair, Fright Nights, and I liked it. I think it's a good haunt, but like, you walk right into Poltergeist and you see that humongous facade. Like, oh, I get why everyone likes Halloween Horror Nights now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think probably regardless of what anyone thought of the actual quality of their first ever house, it's special. And I mean,
oh yeah,
my first ever house was not a good house objectively whatsoever, and yet I'll never forget it because it's the first time I ever experienced an HHN house.
Oh, HHN, bringing people together.
How sweet.
Oh, we got one more voicemail.
Hey guys, this is John from Minnesota. I'm a fan of the show. Want to ask your thoughts about the trend from the past couple of years, basically since 2020, and the park was shut down for HHN, and then did the kind of hybrid, plexiglass and masks in 2021. It feels like Universal still hasn't really dropped the big dollars on either getting this big splashy IPs or going above and beyond with a really unique house. I know there's been a couple of originals that have been home runs, but it's not the same caliber, I would say, on average, going back to 2019 and 2018, which were a couple of the golden years of the event in my mind. So just wondering what you all think, if they're still, contributing their proper due to the creative team and to the props and sets, or if you just feel the way I guess I do, that things have been a bit lackluster and they're just not going all in. Thank you.
Thank you for the voicemail, first of all, of course. I would say I do agree that there's been a lack of like that big splash IP, especially if you go back to 28, 29, right? I don't know if that's a factor of them not spending the money versus maybe some of those relationships with those bigger IPs are frayed, or it's just not fitting into whatever they wanted that year. And I'd say as far as originals, I do get where you're coming from. However, I'd point out that also Dead Man's Pier, potentially some of the greatest, most large-scale sets they've ever built at the event. So I would say they went not just all out, but more in than they've ever gone on that specific house build itself, at least from a financial and scale standpoint.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they definitely haven't done anything like really splashy, like horror wise, like the traditional horror. But I mean, The Weeknd could not have been cheap, and
No,
that is,
yeah.
and that was like a huge IP, I think, for us, like for a general thing. I know that ruffles some feathers. That they are definitely going to more of a general audience, try to like horror adjacent type
Yeah,
of
but so did Stranger
appeal.
Things at the time,
Right.
and yet that's basically
Huge.
the biggest
Right.
property on earth
Right.
at the moment. So
And with Billie Eilish, if it had happened, which I mean, it was a rumored thing, it didn't officially happen, but I think the rumors were strong enough that we know that it was probably going to happen. That would have been huge as well, expensive wise. But I get where he's coming from here, whereas like when it comes to horror centric IPs, we've been missing a really splashy one that's just straight on the nose.
I mean, you're talking in years back to back to back to back. You had like The Shining, The Exorcist. That's not the right order, but Poltergeist,
Walking Dead,
Right, yeah.
Walking Dead's, and even less horror, but more just massive older IPs. Ghostbuster, Beetlejuice.
I think we're getting that if the rumors are true about The Last of Us, though. I think that we're getting that.
Yeah, I think that's a big like headline IP right there if that is happening. I also do think I understand what you're saying by like, we haven't had a big IP since like quote unquote Stranger Things or Ghostbusters or something like that. Beetlejuice was a big IP and it brought a lot of people to the event, like Mike just said.
Yep.
But a lot of people forget what is technically an IP: monsters. And those monster houses since 29 have been fucking bangers.
Yep.
And you can't, like, nobody can deny that. And if you don't like them, I totally understand that might not be your thing. But those were big houses that brought people in, were IPs, and were always like top of people's lists. So those were big IPs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing, the way I interpreted what he was saying,
Modern.
just the investment aspect of it,
Gotcha.
splashing on a big IP, because obviously they technically have to quote unquote pay for the monsters,
But it's not like a Netflix deal. I understand they're like a Ghostbusters. Okay, but Beetlejuice then would be, I guess, the most recent example. But the house wasn't well received. I think just because the house wasn't well received, it doesn't mean the money wasn't put into it.
Yeah.
I will say maybe they didn't put the money into the house,
but the IP is
though,
not cheap.
yes.
I mean, say Hill House too couldn't have been cheap.
Yeah,
I think they just kind of those missed, and I think COVID had a lot to do with it too. So I think, and then last year I think, I mean, Halloween it's just been done so many times. I think that's why it didn't feel splashy. But Halloween is about as big as you can get, at least at some point it was, right?
Texas Chainsaw
Massacre, the year before.
I think the big difference probably is if you're going back, especially like 29, you have Stranger Things, you have Ghostbusters, you have Us, which at the time was a huge property. You got
House of a Thousand Corpses,
it was like all in 1 year. You're getting all this 28.
I get that.
And Stranger Things,
and those all had like all of those were very well received houses. Like, so I understand they definitely 29 was lightning in a fucking bottle, especially for IPs, and we hadn't really had that. Like, we had a couple.
Absolutely,
we'll get back there. I think that they had to probably splurge some of the budget to get The Weeknd. If I'm assuming,
and The Last of Us,
but who knows? There are rumors that there is another bigger, splashier IP that would go along with the Last of Us.
We'll see. So I don't know what that could be, but
with Insidious and Megan and Last of Us and one other, I mean, that's a pretty, and Monsters. That's a pretty heavy IP there.
Yeah.
So who knows what that big splashy IP is, and I don't know if we get it, but if it does come, I mean, those together with Megan Insidious, Monsters.
Yeah. I mean, not saying this is what it is, but imagine if it was like Stranger Things season 4 pulled out of their ass. Like, that's suddenly like maybe the strongest looking IP lineup ever. So if you get something along that level of property, insane.
Yeah, because I mean,
even if
I think it's lost a little bit that like Insidious and Megan are two pretty huge IPs to put in a.
Megan made bank.
They were going to be
Megan
huge.
made so much money.
Insidious is one of the largest modern horror IPs there are. Period.
Especially if the rumors are maybe Five Nights at Freddy's, if those like
that'll be in the next couple of years. Without a doubt, I think that's going to be at the event. I think that's why the Blumhouse. Everyone can bitch about now Blumhouse is. I've heard people say Blumhouse is going to be the next Walking Dead because it's been so consistent. I don't think it's the same. Yeah, the properties are so different. But you guys are bitching about something that is leading to Five Nights at Freddy's. That's probably why they're keeping this up. Let's be honest.
That's like saying anytime they bring out a Universal property, like it's The Walking Dead because it's all by Universal.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I also do think
relax.
I think that undermining The Last of Us, even if it is going to be the biggest IP, that's not something we should do because I think they're going to put the money into the makeup and the costume and the set.
You can't get that one wrong.
Definitely.
That is one that if you half-ass it even slightly, it's going to be
I have so much faith.
Yeah.
So much faith in that one that even if that is our headline, no. Even if that is like our headlining IP, I have a lot of faith that it could be like a Stranger Things 28. Hopefully, I don't want to put too much faith in it, but potentially,
I could definitely see it, and even this, just what the property is in the visuals in it. This has a lot of potential to be like an absolute all-timer IP, 1,000,000%.
I'm super stoked.
And my question is, would you rather have quality over quantity then? Because would you rather have a bunch of IPs like 29 or one really fucking solid IP and Chucky as well?
Listen,
Monsters.
I will take the 6-4 original split every year.
Same.
Listen, outside of the fact that I'm a fan of originals, but if it means you're going to get that banger IP instead of just more IPs, please, every day. Take out the fact
always
that
quality.
I love originals, and I would rather have less IPs that are great.
I forgot about Chucky.
Agree.
You add in the midst. I completely forgot about
The Last of Us. Everyone keeps forgetting about Chucky and also I forgot about Blumhouse.
Yeah,
I didn't even say Blumhouse in that. So that 4 right there, I am so hyped in the potential of getting another one or something else replaced. I really don't want something replaced, but I'm excited for an off year for 32. That is not something I was going to be excited, but that's not something I thought I was going to say in February. Being this excited for Spec.
Yeah.
So.
And I will say, in the context of they haven't really been wanting to, the idea of splashing cash for the last couple of years, like you guys sort of pointed out, I really think that was just a result of not that Universal wasn't willing to spend money, but just things happen in contract negotiations. Like you said, Mike. Billie Eilish was supposed to happen in 30. Imagine that lineup, Billie Eilish, Hill House, Beetlejuice, all in the same Texas Chainsaw. Incredible. That'd be an incredible IP lineup. And it still was, but Billie Eilish was definitely besides Beetlejuice, she was definitely the more modern.
She would have made up for my Beetlejuice disappointment, I hope.
Paper. We'll say that.
Okay, on yes, we don't know for
faith
in terms of.
No, I mean the lineup as a whole because we know how most.
Okay. Sorry, I was like Billy. I had faith in Billy.
I think that would probably have been the best IP of the year for me. I have almost no doubt.
Yeah.
From what we heard of what the concept was going to be,
and what we saw the few pieces.
That's true. Yeah. In those years, that specific year, anything could have got ruined real fast, unfortunately.
So
a lot of things got ruined real fast. Stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
That's true.
So we're talking about sheer numbers, how many people will come to the event, how much the IPs would cost. That year's already covered. And then the following year, remember that year, 31, we were supposed to get Last of Us. We were, and then it just, the show got delayed. That's not a result of Universal saying we don't want to spend the money for Last of Us, which is looking like, that wasn't the case. But it's more of just, stuff happens, and even if they plan to all right, here's our really big IP, Last of Us, besides Weekend, things can just happen and they can get dropped out. And I think that's just going to be the result for many years of something like Halloween Horror Nights, where things will happen with IP right holders, and there will be some years where there's not many IPs, or there might be missing a headliner, maybe not because the HHN as a whole, the creative team was we're not, or not creative, but whoever's willing to spend the money, is we're not willing to spend the money. Just stuff happens because this is a event that changes every single year, and in order for that to happen, there will be things that go wrong.
Yeah. Do you know what, the one thing that I do think the event has been missing for a while, though, is a really
Walking Dead.
No, a really
Shut the fuck up.
a really, really good IP scare zone.
That's yeah.
Oh, the last great one for me, Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. That is the only
Killer
great one.
Clowns. It was a very
Clowns 28. Yeah, Clowns was great.
Here, we do not need to get into this rant, but I'm doing it
Oh,
anyway.
tough.
No, listen. I loved Killer Clowns, but it's not they made a great scare zone. It's just that the clowns were fun.
They put
Scare
the
zone
clowns in a
itself
space.
Was as bare bones as it could possibly.
Trick or Treat was the
It was
best
a
that
great
I have ever
scare
seen.
zone, not just a location that had great characters.
Yes,
but yeah, it's been so for me. What 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, and some people will say Rubs Up Billy Deluxe.
Jonathan.
Oh, it was very
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
I loved Hellbilly Deluxe, but it was not Trick or Treat level to me. Trick or Treat is still the goat for IP zones.
But yeah, it's still been at least a couple of years still since we've gotten rid of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Come on, 32. Let's go.
I will say, as much as I don't love IP zones, my favorite one is Hellbilly Deluxe, because I've only been going since 28. And I like Killer Clowns, but I only spent like 5 minutes in it because I only went there one day. But as much as I do think IP zones can work and be cool, I would always, without a doubt, much rather have the connected originals, like 31, instead of like, here's 4 connected originals, and then here's Cocaine Bear and on the side.
Oh, are we getting a fucking Cocaine Bear? I'm
That's how you know Universal would be spending the big cash for an IP if we get Cocaine Bear, you know.
I would like to toss out just one concept about IP scare zone real quick that someone put in Twitter or somewhere. I don't remember, but beautiful idea. You have a Last of Us house. If it leads out by a scare zone, make that the QZ.
Oh yeah.
So the scare zone is like the quarantine zone that's now the whole
I love
town,
that.
and I'm like
love that.
The rundown
Put the,
city.
yeah,
that they're
fireflies
living
on
in.
there, and like that.
And then that's coming right out of the house. Oh Jesus!
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'm a sucker for a good purge zone.
As much as people hate it, and you know I'm on the same page. Purge zones are so much fun, especially if you go back to the 24 when they were driving around in the fucking van, really abducting people.
I mean, I don't,
picking people up.
I don't even watch the Purge movies anymore. But you give me a Purge zone, like I don't know.
The one in
it does.
What was it? 27 was the last
Yeah.
zone because I saw one. Yeah, I loved it, and I'm not a huge Purge fan.
Hell yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I did. In fact, outside of Trick or Treat, which was the same year, that's probably my next favorite IP zone. Like,
That's fair, yeah.
You know, going back,
2014 is nearly one of my favorite scare zones of all time.
That's a great one. But it's been a while. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you guys for sending in all those voicemails. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Always do that for whatever the episode is. If you want to chat, talk about anything.
If you're
it doesn't even have to
listening
be
now,
related to the episode. We don't care.
And if you
Call us in,
if you head out and
voicemail.
check out Lost Spirits Distillery, definitely call us and let us know. Also, if you go out and check out Lost Spirits Distillery, let them know that HHN 365 sent you.
Yeah,
sure.
They probably won't give you anything. But
They won't give you
just
anything,
tell them.
but it would at least just let them know that you heard the show. So,
definitely.
I'd give you a thumbs up, like that's cool.
Right, cool.
You know?
Yeah. I remember those guys.
Tell the person taking your ticket who's like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
All right.
I get the sense that if you asked for Bryan, he would have loved to come out and talk to you. That man is very passionate about what he does, for sure.
Hey,
All right.
Passionate people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us on social media at HHN 365 on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and at HHN 365 Pod on TikTok. Our Discord server is hopping. That's the best way to describe it. It is hopping and
Peter
hopping.
Cottontail?
No, it is.
Oh God!
Am I aging as hop? You've never heard the term
No,
hopping?
I know.
No, you're not wrong. But the kids nowadays, or I don't even know if the kids say poppin' anymore.
It's popping and hopping.
It's poppin'. Okay.
It's doing good.
Wow.
I don't
Mike, I feel like
just
every
poppin'.
week you sound more and more like a dad.
I mean,
mean, I am.
I know. It shows a little more.
I mean, I'm a dad of toddlers, but I'm still.
It's still dad energy.
Right. You can find our merch shop at hhn365.com, and you can leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. What a fun episode, guys. And we'll see you in the streets.